Assassin's Creed Shadows is finally taking fans of the series to Japan. If you've watched the trailer for even a second, you'll be very aware of this. But what about those things that aren't so painfully obvious? We've scoured through the newest AC's reveal trailer to pick out those details that you might not have been aware of. So without further ado, let's get this history lesson underway. Let's start with the people. First up, we have Yasuke, one of Shadow's two protagonists and the first African samurai. He's a real person from history who arrived in Japan in 1579 alongside Italian Jesuit missionaries before ultimately becoming a samurai in service of the powerful Oda Nobunaga. More on him in a bit. Yasuke is notably taller than the other samurai, which reflect real-life accounts of him standing 6 foot 2 inches tall, a height much taller than the average Japanese man in the 1500s. It's said that his appearance was so striking that people looked at Yasuke in awe when he arrived in Japan. According to historian Lawrence Winkler, in 1579, his arrival in Kyoto, the capital at the time, caused such a sensation that people climbed over one another to get a glimpse of him, with some being crushed to death. Speaking of death, Yasuke can be seen fighting in full samurai armor bearing the Oda family crest alongside his allies here. They're up against another group of samurai, presumably the men of other lords competing for power in Japan. Unification was a bloody campaign of civil war that pitted the Oda clan against other Japanese factions, including longtime enemies the Takeda, Uesugi, and later Hojo clans. In fact, the enemy samurai in this scene could well be from the Takeda family, with their diamond-shaped emblem on this banner being a clue pointing in this direction. And here is Oda Nobunaga himself, the incredibly powerful warlord who was in the process of unifying Japan during this period. He was perceived as a mighty lord or a terrible tyrant, depending on your viewpoint. Just don't get on his bad side would be my advice. Someone seemingly determined to be on his bad side though is Naoe, daughter of Fujibayashi Nagato and the stealthy protagonist of AC Shadows. Unlike Yasuke, she's a character purely of Ubisoft Quebec's creation, although her father was one of Japan's most famous historical ninjas. We're guessing this is him here. Back to Naoe though, and here we can see the trailer setting up the two protagonists as allies. They come from two opposing sides but clearly find some common ground. Unlike Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Valhalla, in which you choose one protagonist to play as at the start of the game, Shadows is much more in step with Syndicate, allowing you to switch between the lead characters and their stories. Thanks to her legendary father, Naoe is well versed in ninja fighting techniques, as displayed here. She clearly holds resentment for Nobunaga, as heard in the way she delivers the line,
"Burns in the name of unification."
And this resentment is likely justified. Let's delve in. Her father, Nagato, was a leader of the Iga ninjas. This is likely the province of Iga here, which came to be known as the center for ninja activity in the whole of Japan, and one of the birthplaces of ninjutsu and ninja clans. Seconds later, we see Nobunaga's samurai invading Iga as part of the unification campaign. Nobunaga launched a large-scale attack on Iga in 1581, storming the settlement from 6 directions with numbers reported to be as high as 60,000 men. The invasion wiped out Iga's forces and effectively nullified the ninjas as a political force. Nagato died during this battle, and from what we can see in the trailer, it's suggesting that Yasuke may have played a part in this. We can infer that this personal story of conflict and resolution will drive the central plot of Shadows. And from all these faces and interactions, we can take a good stab at guessing the events of this trailer take place between 1581 and 1582. This is largely due to the theory that this scene here is likely Oda Nobunaga's first meeting with Yasuke in Kyoto in 1581. Yasuke can still be seen in Western attire, and the people in orange clothing may be the Jesuit missionaries he arrived with, who wore such robes as to appear similar to Japanese Buddhist priests. Now here's some slight spoilers, but this is 450-year-old history after all. Nobunaga died in 1582, forced to commit ritual suicide when he was betrayed by one of his generals. We know that the real Yasuke was with Nobunaga when he passed, but will Shadows twist the truth when it comes to this and have Yasuke be the one responsible for his lord's demise? Could Oda be a Templar? The reason we ask is because of these words spoken here by Naoe, which suggest Yasuke may have split allegiances at points in the story.
Or choose another path beyond what we see.
These dates give us a pretty narrow window of time for these events to take place in, and would land us firmly in the Azuchi Momoyama period of Japanese history, the final phase of the country's civil war-filled Sengoku era.
You are still a frog in a well, who knows nothing of the sea.
It's not just people and places, but smaller details such as wildlife and weapons from historical Japan that we can see too. In contrast to much of the violence on display, early on in the trailer, we're welcomed by the quaint sight of a rural landscape filled with cherry trees and Japanese cranes, which are colloquially known as Tancho-zuru. In folklore, the crane grants wishes when someone makes a sacrifice. It symbolizes good luck and a long life, as it's said to live for 1,000 years. In Japan, they're still folded to invite good fortune to this day. More cultural references can be spotted as we see Naoe and her father praying to the gods at a Shinto shrine. The tradition is to bow twice, clap twice, then bow again. But the ritual is interrupted by the attack on the nearby village as Nobunaga's forces arrive. These are all but definitely Portuguese merchant ships. As we learned in FX's TV hit Shogun, the Portuguese were colonists who had Japan in their sights. They introduced Western religion to the country via Catholicism, but also arrived with guns and gunpowder, which would later revolutionize the way Japanese rulers waged war. We see a shot of Nobunaga's forces wielding rifles here. There's no shortage of traditional Japanese weaponry either though. The commander here is raising a gunbai, a war fan used to give signals to the soldiers. Dotted throughout the trailer we also see glimpses of a yari, a samurai spear weapon, a kanabo, a war club used in feudal Japan, and of course shuriken, sharp stealthy throwing stars. Of course, there's also a heavy dose of violent fantasy sprinkled into all this history too, as classic Assassin's Creed tropes and iconography make appearances in the trailer. Naoe can be seen using a grappling hook, which makes its return to the series for the first time since 2015's Assassin's Creed Syndicate. And here we can even see a double aerial takedown. It just wouldn't be AC without some subterfuge, and we get a helping thanks to this anonymous person on the street who hands Naoe a note. This could be a reference to the spy network that Ubisoft has confirmed to be in the game, which could potentially be something of an evolution of the system in Brotherhood, where Ezio would recruit assassins and send them out on missions. The note itself reads, "The enemy is in Takeda Castle." Takeda Castle itself is located northwest of Kyoto, and it's often referred to as the Machu Picchu of Japan. It's nothing more than ruins today, but back in the era that Shadows is set was under the rule of Toyotomi Hidenaga, the brother of one of the country's most powerful warlords. It's unlikely that it's him we see being chased and eventually slain at the end of the trailer though, since he didn't die until 1591. But this wouldn't be the first time AC has bent history to its will.
We are the Shadows
that serve the light.
This turn of phrase has become commonplace among the assassins over the centuries, making an appearance in several games, as has the piece of music titled Ezio's Family, which has become the de facto theme tune of the AC series ever since we first heard it back in 2009. And of course, we can't forget the assassin's signature weapon. Naoe has a hidden blade with a twist, quite literally. It rotates to form a more dagger-like weapon. As if there was any doubt, she's clearly an assassin, and one we can assume will be hunting down Templars given the 16th century setting. And that's everything we spotted in the trailer. For more on Assassin's Creed Shadows, check out an uninterrupted look at the trailer, or our big preview feature detailing everything you need to know about the game.